BGP soft reconfiguration is a great feature if your device can support it and your device can handle it. Let's see here exactly how this works. So router 6 and router 5 are both forming an adjacency here with R4 via BGP. Now, if I go and I apply some inbound policy to R4 and I say, hey, I want you to filter these different routes, or I want you to apply, local preference or a wait or whatever, okay? When I go into that device, what I need to do is, let me just make sure I have all my debugs turned off here. I need to say clear IP BGP star, and I can either say soft or I can clear the session hard, but I can say soft and then I can either pick a direction, either inbound or outbound. But generally speaking, when I do this, I'm going to go ahead and ask my neighbors to send me a refreshed routing table, and I'm also going to refresh what I send them out. Let me run a debug here. I'm going to say debug IP BGP updates. And I'm going to say clear IP BGP. We'll just say star soft, right? Now, before I go through the debug, the soft command is basically keeping the adjacency up and running. So when I say soft, what that means is saying, hey, I need a refresh here. Let me say do on all here, or on all. When I use the soft command, what that's doing is that's saying, hey, I want to keep our adjacency up and running, but I need a refresh of information. If I say in, that says, hey, I need you to just send me an updated copy. If I say out, that means, hey, I want to send you an updated copy, right? But regardless what you do, and by the way, if you just do a star, that obviously kills your BGP adjacency and causes it to resynchronize. There are some times where we need to do that. There are certain times in where BGP may be just really, really slow, or there are certain settings that we may set, certain attributes where we say we need to just clear the session hard, cause BGP to reestablish itself with a new updated BGP table. But you can see that when I clear this session soft, it says, hey, we received this update from router 5, this update. All these are received updates that we've received. I'm not worried about the duplicate ignored. I really don't care. So all these updates here we are receiving. We are receiving brand new updates from these devices. Now in a lab, really not a big deal when we do that, right? I mean, let's face it, we're studying, we're learning, not really the end of the world that we go ahead and do that. However, in production, you probably don't want to clear your BGP table and cause either BGP to resynchronize altogether. You definitely don't want your devices to just all of a sudden, kill BGP in the middle of the day or even at night. I mean, who wants to do that at 2 o'clock in the morning and wait for it to reestablish and make sure you get all those 10,000 routes back? Nobody wants to do that, right? So what we can do is we can turn on this soft reconfiguration feature, and what that's going to do is it's actually going to give us what we would call the adjacency in table. Okay, now the adjacency in, there's other people that say the adjacency rib in. They're basically interchangeable, either adjacency in or adjacency rib in. I really don't care what you call it. And then we get the local rib, right, or our local adjacency table. Okay, now the local rib or the local adjacency table is our local BGP table. Okay, so this is our onboard BGP table of essentially what we have. Okay, what we are applying attributes to and whatnot. Okay, and then we have our routing table, right? Our rib. Okay, so let me explain how this works. When we enable soft reconfiguration, what we are going to do is we are going to put this information into our device's memory. Okay, and so first bullet point that you guys need to be aware of is that if you have a device that does not have the memory to store 10,000 routes twice, you probably don't want to enable this, okay? Because remember, you're going to have one copy here, and then you're going to have one copy here. Then you're going to apply your attributes, either depending on what you're doing, right? And you're going to put them in your routing table, right? So here's where your attributes are going to get applied. So your wait, right? Your wait is going to show up here. Your local preference, things like that. We'll just say local preference, I'm running out of room. And then they're going to go ahead and get applied into your routing table or get put into your routing table from your BGP table. So all of these routes are going to get stored in your device's memory. And again, I've seen devices where they don't have the memory to store all of these routes essentially twice. And so the device ends up having real performance problems or essentially just crashing because it can't handle all that information twice. So you want to make sure that you have devices that can handle it. But if they can handle it, definitely a feature you want to enable, because what happens is when I go to apply new policies here to my BGP table, and I clear it, rather than R4 saying, hey R6 and hey R5, can you resend me all of your BGP information? Can you resend me your routing table, if you will? What R4 is going to do is pull that information from what he has inside of its memory. Okay, so it's a very easy feature to turn on. I just wanted to explain essentially how this works to you so that you have some idea. So here we ran a debug. We don't have synchronization, not synchronization. We don't have the soft reconfiguration turned on right now. And you can see that when I do this and I clear this, you can see that R5 sends me in all these updates, and here are the received updates over from R6, 10.4.6.6, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on soft reconfiguration here in our BGP instance between 5 and 6. Let me just show you the configuration quickly. So let's go into our process, and we're going to say neighbor 5.5.5, and I'm going to say soft reconfiguration inbound. Okay? Then I'm going to go and turn the same thing on for neighbor 6. Okay? So now that we've done this, we have the ability to store this information in memory. And if I want to see this information, I can say show IP BGP neighbor, and I can go ahead and enter in the IP address of the neighbor that I'm essentially forming an adjacency to. And I can say received routes, and this will show me essentially what's being stored in my device's memory. Okay. I can also say, I think it's just routes. There we go. Okay, and these are the routes that are in my local table from this particular neighbor. And by the way, if I'm going to apply outbound policies to this particular neighbor, I can say advertised routes, and that's going to show me everything that I'm sending outbound, right? So these are basically the three tables that I can look at. I can either say received routes for the neighbor, that's going to give me my adjacency in table. I can say just the routes, which is my local routing table, and then the adjacency out table, if you will, which is all of the advertised routes that I'm sending outbound. Okay, so do show run section router BGP. Here I have soft reconfiguration turned on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my debug IP BGP updates, and I'm going to say clear IP BGP star soft, and we're going to see a little bit different output. So when I scroll here, you can see that we have not received anything. Now, I'm not applying any policies. I'm not doing anything different. So I didn't, apply a distribute list or anything like that. You guys should know how to do that. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video. But you can see now that we have not received any new updates because router 4, instead of calling out and saying, hey, I want to receive this update from you, instead of him saying, look R6, look R5, I'm applying a distribute list, or I'm applying a wait, or I'm applying some attribute. I need a new updated copy of your routing table, of your BGP table, of all the routes that you're going to send me. Instead of him doing that, he's going to call from the copy that he's storing in memory. So this copy, we're still going to have our regular BGP update interval. We're still going to have R5 send in any new updates for any new networks. R6 is still going to send them in. But instead of them getting stored just in our BGP table, they will get stored in memory as well once we turn this feature on. And then again, once we clear the table, we might clear it locally, but our local table, rather than going out and asking for a new updated copy in the middle of the day, is going to pull on the local copy that we have in memory. So this is a great feature that we should absolutely run in production. That's going to save our devices, I would say, a little bit of time, maybe a little bit of heartache, but again, make sure that your device can actually handle storing this table twice.